In today's subscriber story, the subscriber catches his girlfriend cheating in the worst way possible with the worst person possible. I'm not going to spoil it, but the subscriber gets really satisfying revenge that is honestly karma at its finest. Enjoy the story. This story is about the subscriber who sent in this story, which you can do via my Instagram in the description, and his then girlfriend, who we will call Caroline, right? It's not her actual name, but we got to give her a name, right? So at this point, right before like the actual things start going down, the subscriber and Caroline had been in a pretty solid relationship, and it had officially surpassed the 1 year mark. So they were getting into some long-term territory right here, right? So they've been going at it for a while. They honestly didn't have any fights. They really didn't have any problems. This didn't mean that they didn't disagree on certain things, as okay, everyone's going to disagree on stuff, but they really didn't have any real clear issues, and things were kind of smooth sailing, or so the subscriber thought, right? So the first kind of thing that made him a little bit suspicious happened one night when he was just with his girlfriend. They were just kind of chilling. They were on the sofa watching some movie or some TV or something, and she was on her phone just kind of doing something, right? And the subscriber had left his phone in the kitchen and was charging, and they weren't 100% sure what movie to watch. And he was like, "Hey, can I use your phone for a second? I thought of a movie, but I want to look it up and look at the reviews." Girlfriend kind of looked back at him and said, "Why don't you use your own phone?" And he said, "Oh, it's charging in the kitchen. I just don't feel like getting it." And she's like, "What's the movie called? I'll just type it in myself." And he was like, "Okay, whatever, right? I guess she doesn't want me to see her phone. I don't know why, but okay, I guess." And he saw that she closed out of a messenger app and opened up Google. And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, just hand it to me. I can just type it in." And she says, "No, I'll type it in." And it was kind of a weirdly firm response for something that really shouldn't be that big of a deal if you're in a relationship, unless you've previously established "Hey, I just don't like the feeling of people going on my phone. There's nothing on it. You can trust me." But that has never been an issue before. In fact, he distinctly remembers times where they had just gone on each other's phones for fun to do something interesting, right? They've texted each other or text each other's friends via their phones. If someone left their phone somewhere, it was a common thing that they would do, and it didn't seem, there wasn't a precedent set that it was a problem, right? So this was the first kind of red flag that he saw. And this happened a week before the incident, which I will label as the incident in big, bold, scary letters, because it was a big, bold, scary event. That's all I'm going to say. So this next kind of red flag happened 3 days later. One day, he just texted, or 3 days later, not one day, right? So 3 days later, he just texts his girlfriend, Caroline, just asking "Hey, do you want to hang out tonight?" And she said, "Hey, my fault. I got dinner with my family. We haven't all been in the house at dinner for a while, so I just can't go out." That is a totally valid excuse, especially if, I don't know, the mom or dad or whoever, right, just is out of the house a lot, or just the parents are just not there, or it's people's schedules don't really work out, and all of a sudden there's a day that all the schedules work out, and you just want to have some good family time. The subscriber honestly thought nothing wrong about that. He's just "Oh, okay, that's totally chill. I really don't mind. That's fine." And so he was just kind of chilling. He was maybe, I don't know, playing some Xbox, maybe playing some Minecraft, maybe doing some homework. I don't even know, right? I don't have the details on that. But he was, either way, he was taking a break, and he was on his phone, and he was just scrolling through Snap stories. And, he scrolls through the Snap stories, and he opens up one of the Snapchat stories of one of his girlfriend's, Caroline's friends, right? I don't even know her name. We can call her Margaret because she's not going to appear again, but let's give her a name anyways. So Margaret, who's Caroline's friend, had a Snapchat of her at the movies. And he's like, "Okay, that's cool." He's how you sometimes quickly spam through stories because you don't really care. He was doing that because whatever, right? He was just kind of curious. And then he spammed through, and then he stopped for a second and started clicking back. He went to go back, rewatch the old stories, because it looked like his girlfriend was in one of the stories. And he looked at the stories really carefully, and he noticed, yeah, his girlfriend was there. And he was just kind of thinking to himself, "Okay, that's fine, but okay, my girlfriend is just out instead at the movies with her friends, which is totally fine, but at the same time, I don't know, I kind of wish she just told me that." But then he realized, as he kept swiping through the stories, his girlfriend didn't appear in any of the future stories. She was just there at the movies briefly with her friends. And then, the snap story of Margaret was just her and her other friends. And Caroline, the girlfriend, just oddly disappeared from any future stories. And, he was kind of weirded out by that. He was like, did she just stop by the movies for a second? Did she go watch another movie by herself? It just didn't really make a lot of sense. But honestly, it didn't seem that deep at the time. And it definitely didn't seem like that deep enough to go and ask her about it, right? It just didn't seem like that big of a deal. In retrospect, it was a pretty big key that things were not looking so good. But he would have had no idea to know that. Pause. Subscribe if you haven't already. All right, play. So finally, the dreaded day comes, right? And he didn't know that this was going to be the dreaded day in retrospect, but this was the dreaded day. It was a Friday night. School was out for the week. It was the weekend, obviously, right? So he decided that, he wanted to go see the movies with his friends. He didn't necessarily ask what his girlfriend was doing because they were, a year into their relationship. Obviously, like they can do things without each other. They don't need to do things with each other all the time. And while they like doing stuff together, right? They enjoyed that. They didn't have to do it all the time. They were totally fine to go out with their friends. But if he was to be asked, he would have just told her, I'm going out with my friends. He wouldn't have said, oh, I'm staying in tonight. But anyways, right, he wasn't too upset about what happened a couple of days ago. So he decides to go see one of the new movies. Maybe it's like a Marvel movie or I don't even know. He went to go see the new movie with a group of his friends from school, and they were pretty hyped about it. They were actually talking about it during the day. Anyway, so his friends get to the movie theater a little bit early. They scan in their tickets, they buy some popcorn, and they like getting there a little bit early to see the credits or the previews for, not the credits, but the previews for the new movies coming out. I don't know, man. I always find that kind of fun. Sometimes that's better than the movie itself. Unfortunately, that's sometimes the case. It's always kind of cool to see what movies are coming out if I want to go see one. Anyways, irrelevant to the story. But right, so he's in the movie theater with his friends, and they get there kind of early for the credits, and they decide to sit kind of far back. And the movie theater is dark enough that, if someone was to go in, unless they were sitting directly next to them, it would be pretty hard to recognize faces. Anyways, so the subscriber and his friends were sitting there, watching the credits, watching the previews, and the previews ended and the movie just started. And then two people walk into the movie theater, obviously a little bit late, as they're kind of rushing in because the movie's starting now. And the subscriber just happens to look down at the right time, or maybe the wrong time. Maybe ignorance is bliss. I don't know. So he looks down at just the right time that the light from the movie, it was a particularly bright scene. So the light from the movie screen illuminated the first face of the person to walk in. And it was very clearly his girlfriend. So he was like, oh, Caroline's here. That's pretty cool. He didn't know what she was doing. So he's like, oh, she's probably here with her friends, watching the movie. That's pretty cool. I'll go up, once she sits down, I'll go up and see her and talk to her and ask her what's up and everything. But then his heart absolutely sank when he saw another dude walk in with her. Unfortunately, the movie scene had changed to a darker scene, so there was not enough light to see who the face was, but it was pretty clearly a guy. And it wasn't her friends and some guy friends went to go see a movie, because I have a group of friends at college, and there's some girls in that group of friends. It doesn't mean that we're all dating each other, right? You can be friends. You don't have to be friends with just your gender, right? You can be friends outside of that. No, but if it was her and a bunch of her friends, right? But it was just her and a dude. And the subscriber was like, oh no. He just kind of knew. He really wanted to hope. He was having a little hope juice, he was sipping on that hope juice, really hoping that it wasn't what it looked like. But in most cases in life, the most easy and simple and reasonable explanation is the real true explanation, unfortunately. The subscriber tells me that he didn't pay attention to the movie for a second. In fact, a month later, he went to he rewatched the movie on demand, because when he saw it in the theater, he wasn't paying attention to the movie at all, because instead he was paying attention to what his girlfriend and this mysterious guy were doing at this movie theater. And it turns out, right, he notices that at one point they start holding hands, and she's kind of cuddling into him. It's just a really tough moment to watch, right? It's just really tough. And then at one point, probably He was really hoping like maybe they're brothers and sisters. Like that would be weird, but maybe they're like really close. He was trying to like explain this away, even though you can't explain that away. They finally did something that you just honestly cannot explain away, no matter what. Like you can't say that they're relatives or friends unless maybe they're French. I don't know, dude. They started making out. And I guess like when I heard like in France, like there's a greeting where you like kiss each other on the cheek. You don't make out with random people, right? That's not the same thing. So you can't even say that, right? So at this point, he felt completely defeated and he was getting a little upset and more curious of who this guy was. So he doesn't say anything to his friends they went to the movie with. He just didn't feel like talking about it, right? But when the movie ends and he sees them get up, he gets up immediately and his friends were like, whoa, chill, like there might be something cool after the credits. Because if you don't know, sometimes movies stick like a bonus scene after the credits. He's not paying attention to them. He'll be like, I'll explain it later, right? And he gets up and he like sneaks out. Like he's from the top row and he's like kind of like crouching down and stealthily walking out as his girlfriend and the mysterious guy he's with walk outside. So he kind of tracks behind them, but far enough that he could like duck away or turn around and they wouldn't know who he was. So he walks out and, they go out into the bright lights where, the main hall is where you can go into all the movies. And they're facing the other way around from him, but he gets a bit of a pit in his stomach because he recognizes the back of the guy. He just feels like he knows who he is, but doesn't know exactly. It is until both Caroline, his girlfriend at the time, and the random guy she was with turn to look at each other. And the subscriber has never had a worse feeling in his life. This toppled the feeling he felt like an hour ago when he saw, or 2 hours ago at this point, when he saw her go in with a random guy. It was his older brother. Yup. Not a good moment for this guy. I feel really bad for the subscriber, right? Not a good moment. Anyways, right, subscriber absolutely crushed. His friends try and console him, but he doesn't even explain what's wrong. And his girlfriend texts him, but he just doesn't reply to that, obviously. And she's like, hello, question mark, but doesn't really follow up. She doesn't really push to get to him. And while they go to the same school, they're all in different classes, and it's relatively easy for him to avoid her. And he did for a couple days. And then one day, he's kind of sitting in his wallow, just wallowing in his own pity, right? And he's like, you know what? Nah, you know what? I'm getting revenge. Like, I've been with her for a year, and that's my literal brother. I got to make this at least not even, but not as tilted as it is right now. So the subscriber decides that he's going to get revenge separately against his brother and against his girlfriend. So he devises two separate plans. Plan 1, against his brother. Secret keyword of the video is brother. So if you made it this far into the video, which, if you're listening to this, you did, go in the comment section and comment brother down below. I'm going to heart as many as I can. I can't get to them all, but I will honestly do my best. And you can farm some hearts and maybe get the little top commenter thing next to your name. We'll see. Anyways, back to the story. Plan 1, get revenge against his brother. So his brother, for like the last year, had been sneaking out of the house. And while his brother was a little bit older than him, he was still living, with the parents, right? He was still under the parents' supervision. And the parents were a little stricter and did not give him a car and did not give him permission to sneak out, He still had to ask before he went and did things. The subscriber was like around 15 and the brother was around 17. I wasn't given ages, but those just sound like about right. I don't know, but that's a pretty good guess. Anyways, the subscriber comes up with a plan, and I'm not going to spoil it yet, I'll tell you, right? But he's going to get his brother grounded, and grounded for a very long time. So that Friday, he knew his brother was heading out. So he waited until his brother snuck out of the house to go, hang out with his friends. And he went into the kitchen, and his mom was there, they'd already had dinner, this was later at night. And he goes up to her and says, hey, do you know where, insert name of older brother is? Like, I have a question about like my homework and, he's in a higher math than me because he's older. So I was hoping he could help me. Like, do you know where he is? With a real emphasis on, do you know where he is? Right. And she says, oh, he's probably in his room. Like, that's where he normally is on weekends. And sure enough, like the room was locked and she knocks on it and she says, insert, the name of the brother, like, hello, like your brother needs to talk to you. And she knocks again and is like, hello. And the door was locked and the light was on to make it look like he was there. The subscriber's like, hey, mom, let me look through the keyhole. And so he kind of goes up to the door, peeks through the keyhole and says, no one's in that room. And she's like, what? So she gets the dad, right? And they look throughout the entire house and he is nowhere. So she's starting to get worried and upset. And she's like, oh my God, where could he be? And he's like, Mom, do you remember that, that app you had that would like track like the iPhone if it ever got lost? I bet he's on his phone right now, and I bet you can find exactly where he is. And he tried to hold back the smile on his face when he watched his mom open up the app, turn it on, and, he looked over her shoulder and saw that, yeah, this guy was at the phone was at one of his friends' house, right? How convenient. So the mother just quickly jumped in the car with the father, and they both drove to where, his older brother had snuck out to be. And yeah, they found him there. I mean, the app didn't lie. And the guy got grounded. His older brother got grounded for a month. So now on to the second plan, revenge against the cheating girlfriend. The girlfriend had told him that, she was in this really tough math class and that she had been, she confessed to him that she had been cheating for the entire semester and that she will continue to cheat just to pass the class. And she told him exactly how she was cheating. She basically, she did the classic right on your wrist, that's very easy to get caught with, but she was in a big enough class and sat far enough back that she was fairly confident that she would be fine, as the teacher never did rounds and checked on people. He just sat at the front and waited for them to pass it in, and she always wore long enough sleeves so that she could roll up her sleeves when she actually did hand in the work. So what he decided to do is he knew that following Monday, because on that Friday, right, he busted his brother, on that Monday, she had a really big test. In fact, she was probably studying for the test as he thought about the plan to get revenge on her, right? So that Monday, he knows when her class period is, because they've been together for a year, and she complained about this class for like the last couple months, because she hasn't had it for a year, right? It's only like one semester a year. I don't exactly know how that worked, but she complained about it enough so that he knew like all the details about her class. So he looked it up on the school schedule, and he saw when the class started, and luckily he actually had a bit of a free period before the class. So 30 minutes before the class started, he went to the class, and fortunate for him, the door was unlocked. And he went into the classroom and he went to the desk of the teacher, and out of sight of any students walking in, but in very clear sight for the teacher, he put a sticky note like behind the desk so the teacher would obviously see it. And on the note, it said, Caroline will be cheating on this exam. Check her wrist. The answers will be there. Didn't sign it, didn't say who it was from, an anonymous tip. So while he wasn't there to see what happened, he was friends with someone in that class, and he asked like what happened that day, like a couple days later. He also explained how he got cheated on, right? And, he knew that she got busted and just wanted to hear about it. And the friend in that class explained what happened. So Caroline walked into class that day, and she went to the back of the class as normal. The teacher was eyeing her a little bit, but she didn't actually like put two and two together because she had no idea about the note, had no idea that was coming. And, she was in the back, and she kind of rolled down her sleeves, and she did her thing that worked every single time. And she was paying attention to her paper. And while she was looking down, writing an answer, the teacher basically power walked to the back of the class. And by the time, Caroline looked up, the teacher was right above her. And he's like, what's on your wrist? And her wrist was out. She had no time to like slip it up. So she quickly tries to slip it up. He said, no, I need to see what's on your wrist. And she just looks up at him, and she just gets up, and she's like, yeah, I'll go to the principal's office. And he's like, yep, you will, and I'll go with you. Everyone else, keep on taking the test. If anyone's caught cheating, like you'll have the same result happen to you. So just don't cheat, but I'll be gone. So a couple hours after the whole thing went down, the subscriber is out of class. He's walking to his next class, and he gets a text from Caroline saying, you won't believe what happened. Like, I got caught, like somehow the teacher caught me. This has never happened before. Like, I just can't believe it. Because they used to talk all about this class, and he would warn her. He'd be like, hey, like you got to be careful about this, right? And he texts her like, I have no idea how it happened, kind of innocently, just to like start conversation, because she had started to notice he had been ignoring her for a while. And after she texts him that, he just looks at it, smiles, and said, we're done. We're breaking up. And she responds like, what? Why? Like, I don't understand. Like, can we talk? And he responds, no, we cannot talk. And after that, he says, I know what you did, and proceeds to block her. Subscribe if you haven't already, and watch another story video if you're bored. Peace.